Thank you for your participation on today's webinar, QuickBooks Online Training. My name is Jenna Davis. I'm the Manager of Chapter Operations here at HFMA, and I will be moderating today's call. If you have questions throughout the webinar, please type them into the Q&A pod and we'll address them during the presentation. Today's session will count towards your chapter's DCMS education hours for 2018-2019, and chapters will receive 1 hour of DCMS education credit for each attendee. At the end of the presentation, please take a few moments to complete the online evaluation. Your feedback is very important to us and is used to enhance future webinars. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Nicole Owens. Nicole will guide HFMA chapter treasurers through the intricacies of record keeping using QuickBooks Online. And let me just transition over to QuickBooks, and then I'll turn it over to Nicole. And Nicole, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Okay, what you're seeing now is the home page. This opens immediately after you log in. On the home page, you will see a quick overview of your profit and loss as a graph. There it is at the bottom left corner. And in the new QuickBooks does not offer the ability to customize your home page. However, there is a navigation map that is now located on the left-hand side of the screen, which is here, your dashboard, banking, sales, expense, workers, reports, taxes, accounting. Next, we have the Create menu at the top right-hand side of the screen. You click on this icon to start some of your daily functions, such as creating invoices, or writing checks. For members, you can create invoices or receive payments. So you create invoices or receive payments here. For vendors, you can record expenses by writing the check. You are also able to enter bank deposits and make transfers from one bank account to another and make journal entries. And that would be under the Other. Now, updating treasurer's name in QuickBooks.
This is Steve Saldivar. I'm the accounting manager here at HFMA. As far as updating user access, National will do that for you. It will be the responsibility of the outgoing treasurer to let us know. So we do understand that there, is dual responsibility towards the end of the year with the transition of the treasurer. So the old treasurer still needs access so they can assist with the 990 preparation, and then the new treasurer will probably need new access. It is the responsibility of the outgoing treasurer to review their list. If you need a list of who currently has access for your chapter, please reach out to National. You can reach out to either Perla Gallegos or myself, Steve Saldivar. You could also dial the 800 number. That's 800-252-4362, extension 316. That should get you directly to Perla. And then just let us know who needs access and who should be removed from access from the list that we send you.
Now, accounts receivables option. The option to enter invoices and receive payments separately can be performed by a two-step process. This option will track and manage the chapter's outstanding accounts receivables using the accrual accounting method. The second option is a simpler one-step approach. This shortcut method will let you receive payments immediately by using deposits on the banking menu. These are just some examples here, which is your check register. Now, to create AR invoices, the following procedures apply to cash receipts using the two-step accounts receivable method of creating the invoice and receiving payment on an invoice. On the top right, click the menu and then select Invoice. So you're going to go to the plus sign and select Invoice under Customers. And this is your blank invoice screen. Now, creating a member or a vendor can be done by just typing in a member name in the member box. You have them here, or you could just start by typing and it'll pop up. If you use the arrow key, again, you can drop down and see all of the members here that you have. If there's a member that's not in your drop-down menu, you would just click on Add New, And you can enter the new member name here, save, and their information will pop up. Now, while you're creating a new invoice, you want to select a product and enter a description and an amount if needed. If a description or rate is entered for a product, then the description amount will automatically fill in. So you would click on the product or service. I know you have memberships, so let's add new. It's a non-inventory item. You can add the price. Let's just say it's $150. And you want to make sure it's allocated to the correct account. No, so you probably, well, it should already be in yours. It's not in my sample company here. I'll just go to commission and fees. Save and close. And it automatically has your rate. It will automatically add tax if this box is checked, so you want to make sure that box is unchecked if you do not need to account for the tax. As you see, once your invoices are set up, there's a message that will display, and then your tax is here based on whatever state you're in. And if you don't have tax, you don't need to worry about it, as well as discounts. So for this one, if it's just a simple membership, you don't have tax and no discount, so you'll save. Now, QuickBooks provides you with options to email the invoice to the member or sponsor. You will need to have an email address filled in here, and then you can click on the Save and Send. Now, receiving payments on outstanding invoices. While you're in the invoice, if you receive the payment, you can click on the Receive Payment button. The invoice will automatically pop up, and there's a check mark there next to it. You want to make sure the date is correct. You have the payment method. If it's a check, you want to click the check number right here where it says reference number, and you can send it to the undeposited funds. If it's multiple invoices that the one check is paying, or if you're making one deposit of multiple checks, you want to send it to undeposited funds. That way your deposit can match the deposit with the bank on your bank statement. So for now, we're going to send it to undeposited funds. Want to make sure the amount received is correct. Let's say we're using check 101. If you make a mistake, you can always hit clear payment and go back and redo it. It will not be saved. Or you can hit save and close, or if you're making multiple, if you're receiving multiple payments, you can receive a new, and it'll receive a new payment for a different invoice. We're going to save and close. Now to enter member or sponsor from the drop-down by clicking the drop-down icon, we're back under banking. Once the member or sponsor is chosen, the outstanding invoice or credit memo for that member or sponsor will appear in the payment rectangle. Okay, so this is for the deposit, the bank deposit. So here, this is the undeposited funds, the check that we just received. So you always want to make sure you have the correct account. If you have multiple checking accounts, if you need to add a new account, you click Add New, you enter all of your information, make sure everything is correct. We're going to the checking account. It'll give you your balance. You want to make sure your date is correct. You can click on it and change it if need to. It would always default to the current date. And then you click on which deposit you're making. Again, you want your deposits to match whatever your deposit in the bank on your bank statement is. So if you're making all 3 deposits, you can click the box at the very top left and all of them will check. If you're only making 1 deposit at a time, then you click the individual deposits that you're making. So let's just say we're going to make the 1 deposit here. make sure it was a check. If you need to write a memo, you could say this was for 2018 membership due. And your check number is your reference number. Now you can also receive deposits without invoices. Well, first you will want to check Save and New, and then you have the drop down saying your deposit was made. Now receiving payments without invoices. If funds come in without an invoice or the chapter is not using invoices, deposits can be made by clicking on the Create menu here, Bank Deposits, and then you want to verify the deposit that is going to the correct bank account, especially if you're using multiple checking accounts. Select either a member or sponsor type in the name. So we want to use Amy's Bird. It will always give you a message. Just make sure you don't ignore the message. You always want to read the messages because this is a warning for you, and just making sure you're not making an error. You're able to click the account. It's billable expense income. Now, QuickBooks sometimes will attempt to autofill in the start of the name once you type in the name here. So you don't always have to go to the drop-down box, which is an excellent feature. You always want to fill in your description and your memo box, just so you can always allocate or go back and reference whatever your deposit is for. And then you want to make sure you select your payment method. If it was cash, reference number, you pretty much don't need unless it's a check or unless you make a credit card purchase and you have a reference number from your credit card purchase. And then you always want the amount. Now, if the chapter is using classes, then you select a class, and then at that point you can enter the amount. Save and New. If for any reason you see it's an error, you could click Clear All. It will clear everything you typed in, or you could delete before you make and save it. Go back to the dashboard. Now, there's different types of accounts receivable transactions. So meeting revenue from HFMA. You can go to checks received. So you go to your plus sign in the top right, bank deposit. Now this again is if you don't have the invoices. So you're going to go to add funds to this deposit, and you have your income from, and let's just say you have the checks received that are for $950.52. This is the net amount. The registration revenue is $1,150, and HFMA's processing fee is $199.48, and they're all recorded as gross amount. Now, the payment from HFMA for processing of meeting payments using HFMA would be recorded. We use the National Eye Care for HFMA. You can always add new. Again, that's never an issue. So, again, you always want to make sure it's the right account. If you need to add a new account, you have accounts receivable, current assets, bank, fixed assets, so on and so forth. You just want to make sure you're selecting the correct account type, and then you can rename it for whatever you would like. So if it's HFMA registration fee or processing fee, sub-account, you really only need to use if it's actually a sub-account of another main account. Save and close, and there's your new account. Again, your description, processing fee for 2018. Your payment method, check, always put check number, and then we'll break the amount into the two. This would be the I'm sorry, this is the registration fee revenue, and this will be the processing fee. Again, this will be a check. So you want to enter a negative amount, and that way your gross amount will come out to the $950.52. And this is the payment from HFMA for processing fee of meeting the payments using HFMA. Save and new. Now, when you have your dues rebate from HFMA, your check received is for $5,104.02. The amount is net of the rebate. The rebate revenue is $5,695.50, and HFMA's insurance fees is $591.48, and they are both recorded as gross amount. So again, you will record your deposit as the same, two different entries. And I add a new because this is a sample company. These are dues. Your payment amount method is a check, and you always want to double check that your check number is correct. So the first amount will be your total gross amount, which is the $56.95.50, and then your second transaction would be the rebate, which I'm sure you already have these accounts in your QuickBooks. So this is a check. Now you want to enter this as a negative amount. So the insurance fees would be negative $591.48. So your QuickBooks will show the $5,104.02. Any questions on that part? Save new. Now we have your deferred sponsorship and other revenue.
Before we get on to that, we do have a question about deposits.
Okay.
The question was, how would you do multiple checks received that are not recorded in accounts receivable but deposited at the same time?
So how do you record all of that as one deposit?
I guess so.
Okay, I'll start from the very beginning.
Again, this is multiple checks received, not recorded in AR, but deposited at the same time.
So again, when you receive the checks, they're going into undeposited funds. Once they go into undeposited funds, you go into your create icon, bank deposit, and they should be sitting here. The multiple checks will sit there. If you want to make just the one big deposit, you check the box. All of them will check, and you save new. And this is your total here. So this is how you know that this is the total you want to match your bank statement. Again, if you only want to make the one deposit that's sitting there, you save new. This is the deposit here where it says selected payments total to your bottom right. And then you could do the separate deposit here, save new for each one. But if you're doing multiple, you check the icon on the left. All undeposited funds will be there. So you just match whatever your selected payment total is. Save new, and there you go. Now we're going to go to deferred sponsorship and other revenue. Now check received is for fiscal year 2018 sponsorship for annual meeting, and no invoice was created. You want to create the deposit to deferred revenue account, include detailed memo information to make sure revenue is recognized in the correct period. I always say create an invoice. That way you really don't run into these problems. But in case you do, again, you go into the bank deposit. All of your invoices that are from undeposited funds are at the top. If you do not have the invoice, you just scroll down some to add funds to this deposit. You click on the customer's name or the member name that you're receiving the deposit from. And we'll go with Clue Cars amount. What was in my Clue Cars? I'm sorry, you go to the account, the correct account. So you want to make sure it's saying sponsorship or other revenue. Your description, you want to say full sponsorship for 2018. Payment method, check, your check number, and then the amount, $5,000. You make sure your total is the $5,000 that you want. You make sure it's going to the correct checking account by pressing on cash that goes to, and it's just referring to what checking account. If you need a memo here, fine. If you make any mistakes, clear all lines, or you could delete. Otherwise, you'll save new. Now, if you receive a check and it is for an open sponsorship invoice to GE Healthcare for $5,000, you would go up to receive payment under customers. New, gonna type in GE Healthcare, save. And actually, if you're adding the new customer here also, this is just a shortcut. You click on details, you're able to put in all of the customer's information. Billing address, email address, phone number, the company. You can display their name as whatever you want it to be. And whatever's typed in here, this is what we'll print on a check if you're printing a check out to them. If you have notes, tax information if you're using a particular state, payment and billing information, or you can attach files, which you probably will never use. But this is just the more detailed information if you have it for that particular customer. Now you see there's a note here saying GE Healthcare's payment does not have an open invoice to go with it. And that's okay. It's also telling you to use a sales receipt. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the sales receipt, which you could type out, and this receipt will go straight to the customer if there's no invoice. However, you just want to make sure that you're still receiving the payment so it could go into your bank ledger and you can put it in undeposited funds so you can account for that deposit when it's time to do your bank reconciliation. Your payment date, method, check. Again, undeposited funds, unless this is the only deposit you're making. If it is, then you're very welcome to send it to that particular account that you're making the deposit in. The amount, $5,000. You see amount to apply. It will put it as a credit memo, but then if it's going to undeposited funds, that just means that particular company has $5,000 as a credit or for their sponsorship. When you go into bank deposits, you will see it there. I went too fast.
So we do have a question about deposits.
Sure.
So the question is, when you record the negative deposit, when you record negatives against the deposit as an expense to reduce the deposit, does that then debit your expense account in the background?
Correct.
Correct.
QuickBooks does all accounting in the background. So if you enter a negative, yes, it does.
Okay.
So you do not need to make separate journal entries. Now we'll go over accounts payables. Now there are options available for using accounts payables. There is a one-step method that uses cash accounting method, immediately recognizing the expense by using the check or expense on the create menu. Here's expense or check. The accrual accounting method will use a two-step process to track and manage the chapter's outstanding bills. This option uses bills to enter balance due to be paid later and pay bills as a two-step process. So here's your pay bill, and this is your bill. A check will be displayed on the screen. This is your bill, so you will enter your bills as they come in. If you're getting a phone bill, as long as everything, your terms is already set up, the bill date, the bill due date, this will be the date you receive it. The bill number, you want to make sure it's to the correct expense account. On to utilities. Description, you may want to say ComEd or AT&T. The amount, there's no customer there. Save and new or just save to exit out. Or use the drop down save and close. Any reason you made an error, clear, or you can add lines if it's a bill with multiple accounts that you're paying in one check. Now you have the one-step method. You can use a check, and this is your check that is displayed, which will be the check that you write. You enter the date. Always want to make sure your check date is correct. Always want to make sure that you attach the correct check number here to your right, because QuickBooks will record. You can set it up where it's recording duplicate check numbers, so you want to make sure you're not recording duplicate check numbers and that your check numbers are in accordance with what your bank statements will be, which will make your bank reconciliation that much easier. You want the correct account number, description, amount. You want to make sure it's coming from the correct checking account or bank account. There's a memo you could put here. You would pretty much just put save, or if you like to print the check right away, you go to print checks and it'll print your check out for you. Now we'll move on to the journal entry. I know you're excited. Now to create a journal entry, you want to go to your create menu. Under other, to the far right, you click on journal entry. You always want to make sure the date is correct. Now, journal entries are used for transactions that do not fall into the flow of accounts payable or accounts receivable and or banking. The most common uses for the journal entries include reclassifying a transaction that was posted to the wrong account. While these changes can be made in a subledger, ARAP, meaning you could go back to the invoice or the original transaction and make the changes, a journal entry option may be more desirable just to show that there was an error. Journal entries are also used for non-cash transactions, such as depreciation, amortization, income and expense accruals, and income and expense deferrals, which can be made via journal entry. Now you enter the correct date. You select the account number. Let's just say it was for AR. You want to make sure you enter a debit or credit, and do not forget to enter a memo for the detail. Your description here, and then you have memo here. And you just want to say error or reversing entry. If this is related to a member or a vendor, you can select them from the name list. If accounts payable, accounts receivable account is chosen, the name is required here. Save. If you're doing multiple journal entries, save and new or save and close. You just want to make sure you get your debits and credits together.
So we actually had a question. Rather than booking a deposit, the question was, can you do a journal entry to book the net deposit? Would that affect the bank reconciliation in any way if it's not in the form of a deposit?
So, yes. QuickBooks does journal entries behind the scenes with every transaction that you do. So if it is a deposit, you definitely want to go through the correct bank deposit or receive payment, or just write a check. And that way, you're utilizing your software to its full ability. And you make sure you don't want double journal entries, because as you're entering invoices or expenses, QuickBooks is doing those journal entries or the accounting behind the scenes. So just to keep your accounting and your books accurate, you want to go ahead and follow these steps. If you're transferring money from one account to another, you do still want to use the transfer button and let QuickBooks do the accounting behind the scenes for you. That way, when you go to do your bank reconciliation, it shouldn't take as long and it shouldn't be as difficult, and you will not be missing items. Journal entries are typically only for things that you cannot enter into the system, which again is like depreciation, amortization, and so on and so forth, or correcting errors, just to show, and just good bookkeeping, good accounting, just to show that you made an error, you realize it, and you're correcting it. Now you can also do the reversing journal entries. So if you have like a deferred revenue, for your deferred revenue, if you're doing a reversing entry, you should already have it, so you shouldn't have to do these steps. In case you do, once you're adding a new account, you have your drop down. You're picking if it's income, other income, expense, assets, bank account, so on and so forth. Within your detail type, depending on whatever account type you pick, it'll give you a drop down just to make sure you're putting it for tax purposes to the correct account. And then you can name it whatever you'd like to name it, and you can even add a description if it's a main account, a secondary account, and so on and so forth. So if you have a reversing entry, you pick your account, you do your debit, let's just say it's $5,000, your description was recognized spring conference meeting sponsorship, and then the name of the person. It's going under the general sponsorship. You're going to do a credit, same $5,000. You add your memo, recognize spring conference meeting sponsorship. Make sure it's the same name. And then you hit save when your transaction is complete. These will have to be, account will have to be filled in. I'm just going to pick an account so we can save and move on. And then your journal entry will be saved. Now, if you want to make a reoccurring transaction, a journal entry, at the bottom of the page, in the middle, you have reverse, make a recurring journal entry. You want to name it, scheduled, or you could just do, if scheduled, that means it'll automatically do it for you. A reminder means you'll just get a reminder for whatever date you select, and it'll just send you a reminder, and you have to go in and actually do the journal entry yourself, or you can unschedule it. I would say schedule it if you know the amount. Reminder if it's a different amount each time you want this reoccurring journal entry to happen. The reminder can go out, let's say, 5 days before the transaction date. And if you want it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, say it's monthly, you could pick the day, the first, second, third, fourth, or last day, the day of the week, every month, every 2 months, every quarter. And then you have your start date. And then if you want it to end date. If you do not want it to end, none. Or after maybe you only want to make 5 reoccurring journal entries. So you want to click after, and it'll tell you how many occurrences. You make sure you fill in the journal entry information that you want to be reoccurring. Your memo here, and then save your template. Any questions?
So there's a question. It says, how does a journal entry get done if I paid a prepayment today and already put it in a check?
If you made a prepayment today, you should be recording that as an expense. And then you want to put it to a correct prepayment account. So you don't need a journal entry for that. You will still want to go through the process. So even if you don't do the expense, you could write a check, and you make sure you're saying today, your mailing address. You still want to put it to the correct account. So if it's a prepaid account or whatever account it is for, the payment date, the amount, and then you add your memo here that it's a prepayment. And again, QuickBooks will do that journal entry for you behind the scenes. So that way your check is still recorded. Otherwise, if you just do the journal entry, your check isn't recorded that you wrote this check. So when you go to do your bank reconciliation, it will be missing. And that's what you do not want. You want everything to show up that will show up on your bank statement so that your reconciliation can flow smooth, and you just don't want things missing. So journal entries is just that, a journal entry. QuickBooks will not create an invoice or a check from your journal entry. Did that answer your question? Okay, now we're going to talk about creating a budget. Now to create a budget, you click on the gear to expand options tool and then select budgeting from the tools. So this is your tools in the upper right hand corner. You see under tools, you scroll down to budgeting, and then you want to click on the add budget. Now once you're ready to proceed, you click next. You do want to name your budget. You want to make sure it's the right fiscal year, if it's monthly, quarterly, or yearly. If you want the data to pre-fill or subdivide. Once you fill that out, you click on next, name our budget. And now you can fill in everything else. So to give you the budget for the year, assistance in creating a new fiscal year budget will involve starting the budget with the prior year actual income and expense amount. Please be careful when selecting the fiscal year you are working on. This affects your report. So you always want to use that drop-down arrow to select the period for this budgeting. Now create the budget name, which is here. Now make sure you select the budget you want to work with. So there may be multiple names for different budgets in the name area. So you definitely want to make sure you're working on the correct budget. Now creating a budget with the option of entering in the month, you will be able to enter the budget by the allocation of when the revenue or expense will occur. This option of view by month, you will be able to view the budget by the allocation of when the revenue must occur. Okay, let's repeat myself. If the option to use enter by year, you will be able to enter a total amount for the year under each category. When entering annual amounts, QuickBooks will prorate the annualized amount into the monthly automatically. Note, even if an uneven distribution exists, this will adjust in the last fiscal month. So you just enter your previous year's numbers here. QuickBooks will add it up for you. You have all of your expense accounts. Everything is broken down for you. And you would just enter save. This will be your budget. If you have multiple budgets, they will already be in this drop down. You can always go back and copy the budget, delete it if you made an error, run budgets versus the actual report, run budget overview reports. So that's what the edit drop down button does. Or if you just need to edit the information, you click on edit, and you could go click on whichever month or whichever account you need to and edit the information. And all of your totals will be in the total box to the far right. Save or save and close. You can print your budget, and then this is to format your budget. Any questions on budget? Now creating reports. Again, if you need to add a budget, you tap on the add budget and you do the same thing over. We're going to go back to our dashboard. Now customizing reports in QuickBooks. QuickBooks does have the ability to customize reports. You click on the report that you want to display, And once you have chosen the report that you would like, click Customize. The screen will help you customize your report. So here are your reports over here to your left under Workers. They have Favorites, Business Overview. Here's Specific Detail Reports. These will be the custom reports that you create and save. And these are more management, more detailed reports. So you want to stay on All. Now the general selection, once you, let's pick a report. Invoice list. So if you make sure you pick the date, if it's a custom date, you would enter your beginning date and your end date here. You want to do the date for the quarter, like the report for the quarter. These are the dates that it'll give you, or you type in the specific dates that you want. You could group it by the year, however you want to do it. Here's your Customize button here. Here's your screen. Now in the rows and columns selection section, you have the ability to choose from various report column options. You just click on each drop down and it'll give you more items to choose from. You can select or deselect. So in the rows columns option, you can choose to group it by account. Then it'll give you the options for date, transaction number, name, memo. So this is why you enter in as much information as you can once you're filling out every screen, because it helps QuickBooks help you track each and every invoice, expense, check, and so on and so forth by so many different things. Who it was created by, who it was modified by, the terms, like you have so many different options for creating your report. And then you would click Run Report, and QuickBooks will give you your report by whatever you customize. You save your customization, you name it. Really don't have to add it to a group. You can share it with everyone or with no one. And from this screen, you can email it, print it, or expand your report, which export it to Excel or export it to PDF. I like to export to Excel because then you can go ahead and do further modifications if you like. Go back to the report list, and you could go on to the next report you like. And here is your custom report. So you don't have to customize the same report every time you want to run it. Once you do one customized report, it's saved, and you can still export it to Excel or as a PDF. And if you want, you could delete it if it was just a one-time custom report that you ran.
Okay, so I realize we went about 5 minutes over. We thank you for attending this webinar. We just want to let you know that a lot of this information is available online in the Treasurer's Toolkit. You will find a document there called Treasurers Using QuickBooks Online to Manage Your Chapter's Finances. That's kind of what we've been using to go through during this presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Perla Gallegos or myself, Steve Saldivar, and we'll try to get those answered as best as we can. Again, we thank you for attending, and have a great one.